Erev Tov, good evening, buenas tardes. It's a great pleasure for me personally and for Tel Aviv University to welcome you all to this very, very special and exciting occasion. I would like to extend a particularly warm welcome to Tel Aviv University, to the Israeli writer Amos Oz, who is in this auditorium. Who is in this auditorium today, to Dr. Carlos Ruta, President of the National University of San Martin from Argentina, and the Vice President of Tel Aviv University, Dr. Ra'anan Rein. In the name of all the authorities of Tel Aviv University and the Universidad Nacional de San Martin, I welcome you to this ceremony of conferral of the honoris causa doctorate that the Universidad Nacional de San Martin has decided to bestow upon the writer, novelist, and journalist we all know and admire, Amos Oz. We thank the authorities of Tel Aviv University and the authorities of the Universidad Nacional de San Martin for their presence here today. They've traveled from a long way away to be with us today. We would also like to thank all the guests from the Argentinian Embassy, other distinguished dignitaries, professors, students, as well as the general public. We're very grateful that you have joined us today. The University of San Martin has decided to grant Amos Oz the highest distinction that the university can give, the doctorate honoris causa, in light of Amos Oz's outstanding career in universal world literature, as well as for his contribution to dialogue and peace. We will begin the ceremony today with an institutional video from the Universidad Nacional de San Martin in order for you to become acquainted with this institution. We're very privileged to have with us today distinguished Argentinian guitarist and composer Juan Falú. He will regale us with two Argentinian folk songs.
Con el tambor de la luna y en amor de carnaval. Algarroba. Qué gusto me dan tus ramas cuando empiezan a brotar. Cuando empiezan a brotar, señal que viene llegando el tiempo del carnaval. Algarroba. Cuando cantan los coyullos me dan ganas de llorar. Me dan ganas de llorar, de puro gusto mi vida, porque llega el carnaval. Algarroba. La vidala por las noches salió a cantar y llorar. Salió a cantar y llorar con el tambor de la luna y en amor de carnaval. Con el tambor de la luna y en amor de carnaval. Con el tambor de la luna y en amor de carnaval. Con el tambor de la luna y en amor de carnaval.
We have appreciated the freshness and creativity of the sounds produced by Juan Falu's guitar music, the folk rhythms so typical of Argentina. It is no surprise that so many of his songs are part of the repertoire of some of the most outstanding Argentinian folk musicians. Thank you very, very much, Juan. I would like to invite Professor Ruta, Professor Rein, and Amos Oz to join me, please, at the table. I now take pleasure in inviting the President of the Universidad Nacional de San Martín, Dr. Carlos Ruta, to please come and take the floor and say a few words in honor of the writer Amos Oz.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for receiving so generously the proposal of a young, small university from the south, the National University of San Martín, which I am representing today before you. Thank you for accepting the proposal of my coming here to pay homage to the Jewish culture, a tradition that is one of the many traditions that coexist in Argentina and within Argentinians. We are offsprings of an encounter of traditions, of a prolific dialogue that has built a common life full of difficulties, challenges, but also full of potential. Thanks to Tel Aviv University, to its faculty, its researchers, its authorities, thanks to its young people. Thank you to our friend and colleague Ronan Rein. It's due to him that this meeting is possible, and it has been thanks to him our university and Tel Aviv University have increasingly been working together. We truly wish both universities to continue working together. Really, honestly, I think that our university, we need to learn a lot from you to become what we wish to be. And finally, and above all, thanks to Amos Oz. Thanks for his generosity in accepting his humble homage from a humble university. Thanks for his immense work. Thanks for his commitment to respectful dialogue among the men and women from this world so deeply affected by injustice. The doctorate honoris causa is the highest distinctions a university can grant, a distinction that is always an act of gratitude. It's mean acknowledging someone's body, work, trajectory, and life. But it is also, and probably mostly, a gesture for our academic community, for our young people, for society. It's a gesture that points to the central values that give sense to the university life. Every university, as every school of lives, reflects the crossing dialogues that interweave each one's identity and that has its roots in nutritional language bed. Thus, the school, in a wide sense, just extends in any directions attributed to it the web that makes possible the web of dialogue that can weave what we are. That is why we can say that we are within a dialogue, or more provocatively, that we are a dialogue. Far from any rhetorical figure, the content of the expression, we are a dialogue, is full of meaning. Its questions unveil central aspects of the human condition in its lights and shadows, and it lets us think the strengths, the density, the limits, and the risks of each one's interactions with the community or communities that each one belongs to as one's home soil, destiny, or choice of life. Deeply, in these considerations lie crucial determination that language imposes to the human condition. In studying them, we clearly conclude that language itself is dialogue. It is indeed in communication that this dialogue is made possible. It is about going into the other's language to understand them, as the learning of any foreign language shall. But at the same time, this dialogue, we are, demands the effort of finding the word that can reach the other and thus begin again and continue work made of questions and answers that can finally let us find or forge a common language, a community of language that can give sense and possibility to a community of life. That is, the possibility of understanding ourselves in the seek for meaning, understanding such meaning not as a fixed or predetermined objects, but as strength that opens the way to a borderless question that is only possible in the common doing. It may be suggesting, remembering, in a word of disagreement and incomprehension, that there are at least two decisive moments for this dialogue architecture that we all are. Facing the tumultuous discrepancies that block our perceptions of any common language, a search and an amnesis of meaning of words is indispensable. Trying to restore the lost sense of words that once roots in the world of men and women's life through their own experiences. So that speaking can cease to be a mere confrontation of hollow words without anything in common to make the dialogue possible. But also, and perhaps previously, we need to rethink and bring back another implicit meaning in the expression, we are a dialogue. It is a reference to an intimate dialogue that allows us to be what we are or what we want to be. Always thanks to the distance it demands from ourselves. We are, above all, a dialogue with ourselves, opening the possibility of all reflections. These reflections, from where we can only go toward the others to understand them, and from there we are able to understand ourselves, preserving and taking care of the richness of alterity. There is no doubt that the heart of university life is research, study, creation. That is the reason why our deepest vocation is to establish a dialogue with the word in order to get to know it, to foster its understandings, to encourage the task of transforming it into a house worthy of man. A dialogue that is born or nourishes by meeting one another, people to people. An attitude that to us comes into being in each place that make our house of study. But this attitude is also undoubtedly nourishes by encountering all the daily experiences that take place in our society. That is why our intellectual professional vocation is essentially linked with the task of knitting a wide network of shared experience, which help us to jointly cooperate in the constructions of a fairer and more truthful world. We make our contribution to the common good by sharing all our talents. Here lies the power of the university, in the power of talent, a power that is firmly rooted in the vocation of service. Those talents have a face of their own. They are the faces of a common life, a shared hope, a dream to be built. We are dialogue. We are the faces of that dialogue. We are the power of the dialogue that attempt to know about the world in order to know about ourselves. And it's exactly because all of this that we are here to honor and to point out to society the implicit values of literature. This history of literature, which we know, can also be seen as the history of the process of its receptions, in the reader's experience, in what literature has meant to build and grow the same human experience. In this reading, expectations are at play in a dialogued movement. These expectations guide understanding and build the literary horizon of expectations. This horizon allows literature to cover its social and communicative functions. It is the moment in which life poses to art an articulation of questions, and the transformation of the aesthetic experience in an understanding of the world as well. Discovering the world, meeting with it, that is the literary experience, turning human experience in wonder of reading. Literature will always provoke experience as the word's hermeneutics, as sense building, that building of experience imbibed with its own communication, because that communication builds the art of living. In that art of living, learns also from literature, human experience, it not just get the past, but creating something new. Literature takes us to repeat, without any doubt, the gesture of its origins, loneliness. But such loneliness is full of encounters. I never feel less alone than when I am alone, one of the great Western writers suggested. Books were these great friends for him, the authors and their words. But literature is also our encounter in the dialogue that reading always brings, the sharing of reading, community making in literature. It meets its deepest vocation in there. It condenses its highest value. In so doing, literature as shared reading experience interweave us with the life of men and women to bring all experience back. And for all this honoris causa wants to be a provoking gesture to tell us, literature as reading experience must be within the core of intellectual life at university, provoking that life as intellectual effervescence, so that the university can reach its destiny, its dreams, and its vocation to be the agora of communities, the meeting of meeting, the challenge of building a world where justice, truth, and beauty can have a wider space. Literature is undoubtedly able to unveil the many faces of the world and of human life, and also the most terrible faces. in the way that only art can do it, going to the depth of human experience, and to the most atrocious one. But literature never ceases to be a thread of life toward human hope, the hope that sustains its dignity. Thank you very much.
I take pleasure in inviting now the Vice President of Tel Aviv University, Dr. Rein, to offer the laudatio to the writer Amos Oz.
Thank you, Rosalie. Shalom. Buenas tardes. Good evening. The National University of San Martin, Universidad Nacional de San Martin, is a partner institution of Tel Aviv University. The two universities share the same vision of research excellence and social responsibility, and the same values of tolerance and pluralism. Therefore, it is a great pleasure and an honor for me, as Vice President of Tel Aviv University, to take part in this ceremony, honoring Israel's most celebrated and greatest living novelist, Amos Oz. In his autobiographical novel, A Tale of Love and Darkness, Oz says, at the very beginning, and I quote, "When I was little, my ambition was to grow up to be a book, not a writer. People can be killed like ants. Writers are not hard to kill either, but not books. However systematically you try to destroy them, there is always a chance that a copy will survive and continue to enjoy a shelf life in some corner of an out-of-the-way library somewhere in Reykjavik, Valladolid, or Vancouver." By now, Amos Oz's wish to enjoy a long shelf life is well assured. His work has been translated and published in no less than 42 languages, with well over 1 million copies sold all over the globe. And the Times of England described him as one of the greatest prose writers in contemporary fiction. The originality and brilliance of his novels, essays, short stories, and children's books have been recognized internationally. He has won dozens of prizes and medals and awards all over the world. These include the Israel Prize, the Goethe Prize, the Heinrich Heine Prize, the Stefan Heim Prize, the Primo Levi Prize, the Dan David Award here at Tel Aviv University, and the Prince of Asturias Award in Literature, among very many others. Honorary doctorates conferred upon Amos Oz include those given by the Hebrew Union College of Cincinnati, Tel Aviv University in 1992. In fact, we were the first Israeli university to do so. Brandeis University, the Jewish Theological Seminary of New York, the Hebrew University of Jerusalem, the Weizmann Institute, University of Antwerp, Ben Gurion University of the Negev, Melbourne University, Bucharest University, Lodz University, and now the UNSAM, the first Argentine university to do so. Apart from his literary merit, Oz's novels can serve as an additional lens in order to look at the Zionist enterprise and the turbulent history of Israel's development. From his 1968 classic, My Michael, Michael Sheli, perhaps Amos Oz's best-known novel, which takes the reader into the fervent mind of Hannah, a young woman in 1950s Jerusalem, through the 1976 three novellas that make up The Hill of Evil Counsel, up to his autobiographical A Tale of Love and Darkness. Arthur Miller described My Michael as a lyric song to his country, Oz's country, as much as a moving love story. In 1999, My Michael, originally written in a laboratory in his kibbutz home late into the night, was selected by Bertelsmann International Publishers Panel of Judges and Readers Club as one of the 100 greatest novels of the 20th century. That same year, it was selected as one of the 5 best foreign novels appearing in China as well, in a completely different civilization. The three stories of the Hill of Evil Council progress through time from World War II, when Jerusalem was full of soldiers of the Allies, to 1947, when the underground forces of revolt against a British rule shattered the Holy Land. A Tale of Love and Darkness is the best example of how Oz weaves the personal with the political and scrutinizes what it means to be an Israeli. The book tells the story of Oz, born in May 1939 in Jerusalem, to a family of Zionists who emigrated from Russia and Poland to Jewish Palestine a few years earlier. At the age of 15, Oz decided to leave his native city, change his last name from Kloisner to Oz, and join Kibbutz Hulda. Increasingly, however, and probably unsurprisingly, Oz found his vocation in studying and writing. He completed a degree at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem in philosophy and literature and devoted more and more time to writing. His non-fiction writings, like Under This Blazing Light of 1979, In the Land of Israel of 1983, or The Slopes of Lebanon of 1987, obviously deal more directly with contemporary issues, from Israel's 1982 invasion of Lebanon to the Jewish settlements in the West Bank, and from the 1984 hijacking of a bus by Arab terrorists to the decline of the Israeli Labour Party. No wonder that the Times literary supplement, the TLS of London, wrote, and I quote, "It rarely happens that literature offers a more profound insight into politics and culture than does news reporting. Amos Oz has performed this rare service," end of quote. Since 1967 and the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza, Oz has been a prominent advocate of a two-state solution to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. As one of the founders in 1978 of Peace Now, Shalom Achshav, Amos Oz has devoted his life to campaigning for peace and participated in various efforts seeking to bring an end to the bloodshed between Israelis and Palestinians. To quote Amos Oz again, "If we don't stop somewhere, if we don't accept an unhappy compromise, unhappy for both sides, if we don't learn how to unhappily coexist and contain our burned sense of injustice, if we don't learn how to do that, then we end up in a doomed state," end of quote. Since 2003, Amos Oz has been one of the leaders of the Geneva Initiative, another platform to promote Israeli-Palestinian peace negotiations. And in 2006, he published How to Cure a Fanatic, a series of meditative essays about radicalism. The Washington Post once wrote that countries need writers as their voices of conscience. Few have them. Israel is one of the few. It has Amos Oz. Alongside the novels and nonfiction, Oz has published wonderful children's books as well. Sumchi is one of the best known ones. Sumchi is the nickname given by teasing classmates to this 11-year-old boy living in Jerusalem shortly after World War II, dreaming of exotic adventures and writing undelivered love poems to Esti, a girl in his class. At the universities of San Martin and Tel Aviv, we encourage our students to challenge commonly held assumptions, to pursue the unknown. No wonder that both institutions have awarded an honorary degree to an author and an intellectual who claims, and I quote, "Fundamentalists live life with an exclamation point. I prefer to live my life with a question mark." By honoring Amos Oz, a writer of international acclaim, the Universidad Nacional de San Martin salutes to an intellectual who is committed to the cause of peace, who makes the plea time and again for tolerance and dialogue, and even in the most difficult times of our region, embraces faith in the future. Thank you very much.
We are all familiar with the written word of Amos Oz, Now we will have the pleasure of listening to the spoken word of Amos, who will deliver a lecture entitled The Love of Books and the Blessings of Curiosity.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends, good evening, shalom, erev tov. After such two wonderful introductions, perhaps the best strategy for me will be to simply keep quiet and say nothing. I could spend the rest of this evening sitting there and listening to the wonderful introduction of Professor Ruta and to the wonderful introduction of Professor Rain. But I guess it's my duty to say a few words, and let me begin by extending my deep gratitude to Universidad Nacional de San Martin for bestowing this honor on me, to the entire delegation of scholars and teachers from San Martin who traveled all the way from Buenos Aires to Tel Aviv to be here with us this evening. It's a very long way. To our dear friends from Tel Aviv University, our hosts here, and at the moment, the only ground for my appetite for teaching is Tel Aviv University. I teach one course at this university, and I enjoy it very much. And welcome to the distinguished representatives of the Argentinian embassy, to my family, to my friends, to all of you. Ladies and gentlemen, these are sad and frightening times. Sad and frightening times here in Israel, and not only here in Israel. There is a growing darkness in Israel and Palestine. There is an even deeper darkness in many other parts of the Middle East. There are different kinds of darknesses descending now on different countries in the world. We are getting further and further away from World War II, further and further away from Hitler and Stalin. People forget. People once again crave for very simple answers to very complex questions. And craving for very simple answers is a great danger. Danger of demagoguery, danger of populism, danger of fanaticism. In fact, I think the more complex the issues become, the more people crave for very, very simple one-line answers that covers everything. This answer may be a sort of religious fanaticism, ideological extremism, a militant chauvinism and nationalism, or simply crude simplifications about other people and resentment to those who are different than ourselves. Press and media in this country and in many other countries in the world, press and media are rapidly becoming no more than popular entertainment for the masses, a branch of the entertainment industry. In many parts of the press and media in this country and in other countries, human beings are being thrown to the lions every day for the entertainment of the masses, just like in ancient Rome. Guilty, innocent, who cares? We need the entertainment. We need the blood. We need the lions. We need the cries of pain. We need the outrage. Parliaments and governments, ladies and gentlemen, parliaments and governments in many places are becoming a place of entertainment, a place for eccentric entertainers or for fanatics, or both. Politics also becomes very rapidly no more than a form of vulgar entertainment for the masses. Democracy, not just in Israel, in many other countries, democracy itself is deteriorating rapidly into some form of a reality show or a peep show or both. But I always turn my eyes to the good news. And the good news, ladies and gentlemen, is that people still laugh everywhere. They laugh at the maniacs. They laugh at the eccentric entertainers. They often laugh at the fanatics and the extremists and the hollow declarations and the bathos of some leaders. People laugh. Sooner or later, I hope, many people will not destroy the present rulers by blood and fire. I don't want to see that. They will simply laugh them out of office. I'm waiting for this. I'm a great believer in the sense of humor. My grandmother used to say, she was a very wise woman, and she used to say, when you have cried out all your tears and you have no tears to cry, this is the time to start laughing. You know, I have the feeling, at least as far as this country is concerned, that very soon it's going to be time to start laughing. And laughter is a power. It's a political power. It's a game changer. It can change reality, it can change the world. Many powerful dictatorships, many powerful tyrants, many powerful fanatic movements were ruined not by brave descendants or brave protesters or brave rebellions, but simply by shrewd joke tellers and parodists. Sooner or later, I can't tell you when or how soon. Very difficult to be a prophet in the land of the prophets. There's too much competition in the prophecy business in this country. You know, speaking about laughter, I personally believe that laughter is the best antidote to fanaticism. I have never seen a fanatic with a sense of humor. I have never seen a person with a sense of humor becoming a fanatic unless he or she lost their sense of humor, which happens sometimes. Because sense of humor means also the ability to laugh at yourself, to laugh at your own cause, to laugh at your own arguments, to laugh at your own sense of self-pity and self-righteousness and injured pride. Humor is a healer. There is a certain anarchistic element in a sense of humor. Humor is also the ability to see ourselves as others may see us. And I find that humor is alive and kicking in the state of Israel, in Israeli society. It's alive and kicking in the Palestinian society. It's becoming stronger. It's alive and kicking almost everywhere, at least places where I go in the world. I don't know about Syria or Iraq or Iran. I guess there is a subterranean, very powerful subterranean sense of humor at work in Iran, because there is a strong civil society in Iran and a very strong secular middle class in Iran, but I don't know about other countries in the Middle East. Yes, I'm a great believer in humor and curiosity, and I think humor and curiosity are nutrition for free thinkers. They are antidotes to the dangers which I've briefly described before, but above all, they make life worth living. They make everyday life worth living. You know, I've been for many, many years in the habit of waking up at 4 o'clock every morning. I do this every morning, this morning included. Tomorrow morning, unless our friends will keep me until very, very late tonight. Tomorrow morning as well. I get up at 4. At about 4:15, I walk in the darkness. I listen to the nocturnal birds, some howling dogs, very few lights in the windows. I remember, as I walk around, I remember that last night on the news, on television, this or that politician used words such as never, forever, for the rest of the eternity. And when I take my morning walk, I know that the stars in the sky and the trees in the park are laughing at this never or forever or for eternity of those politicians. This early morning walk helps me knock things into proportion. And then I get back home, I fix myself a cup of coffee, and I sit by my desk even before the sun rises. And I start asking myself the question, what if I were him? What if I were her? How would I feel? What would I think? What would I wish for? How would I like other people to see me? What would I be so deeply ashamed of that I would like no one to ever know about me? How would I dress? What would I eat? How would I speak? I put myself inside the shoes and even under the skin of other people. This is how I make a living. This is what writing books is, literature at least. This is what writing novels and stories is all about. Imagining the other. Putting yourself inside other people, not necessarily in order to erase yourself completely, oh no. And not in order to turn the other cheek to your enemy as Jesus Christ wanted us to do. Oh no, I am not in that business. And not in order to justify that other 100%. Never. Just curiosity. You know, every one of you, academics, intellectuals, scholars, every one of you knows that curiosity is a crucial precondition for intellectual work. This is obvious. But I came here to tell you tonight that to me, curiosity is also a moral virtue. I believe that a curious person is a slightly better person than a person who is not curious. A better partner, a better spouse, a better parent, a better neighbor, a better co-worker, simply because a curious person asks herself or himself, wait a moment, if I were him, if I were her, how would I feel? I would even tell you that I have an intuition that a curious person is a slightly better driver than a person who is not curious, because the curious person will ask herself or himself what this idiot might do in the next 5 seconds. What might he do? And I'm going to tell you, first-hand knowledge, not intuition, first-hand knowledge, that a curious person is also a much better lover than a person who is not curious. And I know you all want me to elaborate about this aspect, but the time is too early for this aspect of curiosity. Trust me. Curiosity is a blessing. Curiosity is a gift. Curiosity is sometimes the dividing line between intellectual life and emotional life on the one hand, and intellectual and emotional death on the other hand. I can very often tell, almost at first glance, whether a person whom I have only met a minute ago, whether he or she are curious or not. And it tells me a very great deal. I can look at a person very often and see in that person the living child that he or she had once been, or maybe the dead child that he or she are carrying inside themselves. Every one of us is carrying a child inside herself or himself. Sometimes a living child, sometimes a dead child, the child that we had once been. Now, curiosity. Curiosity is also the greatest gift of readers of novels. People read novels for curiosity. You know, literature and gossip are distant cousins. They don't say hello to each other in the street because literature is too snobbish. It's too embarrassed to admit that it is remotely related to gossip. But yes, they are related. They both derive from curiosity, how other people live, what other people really do when they shut the door and close the shutters and draw the curtains. What's happening inside other homes? What are the secret lives of others? We all want to know that. The difference is that gossip always tells us things that we already known, some sort of superficial generalization that everyone is not exactly what they pretend to be. All right, we know this. Literature from time to time tells us something new about other people, and yes, even about ourselves. You know, you read a good novel, and you are thrilled by two contrary kinds of curiosity, by two contrary appetites. You read a novel, and sometimes you stop reading, you take a deep breath, and you say, how on earth could this writer know? This is about me. This is about my secret life. This is about things which I've never shared with anyone, not even with those I love. How the hell could this writer know so much about myself? But also the exact opposite kind of curiosity. You read a book, and sometimes you stop in the middle of reading and you say, well, this could not be me, not for 1,000,000 years, not if they paid me $1 million, never, not under any circumstances. How could she or he in the novel, how could they do or think or act like this? Those two kinds of curiosities, this is precisely me, or this would never be me, these two kinds of curiosity, they look like a contradiction, but actually they are complementary. Many, many years ago, I read a short story in English. I don't remember who wrote it. I don't remember what it was about. I don't remember the plot or the characters. Nothing that really impressed me. But I do remember the title of this story, and that this title has been really shadowing me for many, many, many years. The story was called All Our Secrets Are the Same. Now, on an obvious level, this is wrong. Everyone has his or her intimate secrets, very private secrets. If we dig deeper down below, yes, all our secrets are the same. We all want to be loved. We all secretly think that we deserve a little more than life had given us. We all would like others to like us. We all would like to be good, one way or another. Sometimes we would like to be powerful, influential, successful, impressive. All our secrets are the same. But if we dig still deeper, we discover that no, deeper yet, everyone has his or her strictly lonely secrets. And we could go and dig deeper and deeper and deeper, which is perhaps the reason why every good novel or story that I have liked or read in my life is provincial, one way or another provincial. Every significant literature is provincial. I know you are going to interrupt me and ask me here, you are polite, so you don't do that. But you feel like screaming at me, how about big city stories? Not every story and novel is about a God-forsaken provincial village. There are wonderful novels which take place in New York or Paris or Buenos Aires or Tel Aviv. Even those, ladies and gentlemen, are provincial novels because they never deal with a city. They deal with a neighborhood, with a suburb, with a street, with the universe between the pharmacy at the one end of the lane and the grocery shop at the other, and the little park across the street, and the staircase, and the mailboxes. This is really the world of every novel. And the more provincial it is, the more universal it may become. Not always, not necessarily. Not even when it is very, very well written, it's not necessarily destined to become universal. Sometimes it may become universal. And it becomes universal because these are our kinds of curiosity. Are we different than other people? Are we exactly like others? Are our secrets secretly the same as the secrets of the next person, or are they not? So we read provincial novels. I said provincial, and I said universal. I didn't use the word international. International novels are a totally different business, a nasty business. International novels, you know, these are the novels which describe exciting events in international hotels and airports, and people buy them and read them in international hotels and airports, and then they leave them on the bench in international hotels and airports. So please never confuse the universal with the international. The universal in literature is almost always provincial. Think of Chekhov. Think of Garcia Marquez. Think of Cervantes. Think of Agnon. Think of almost every great prose writer who comes to my mind. They all wrote about a tiny little world from here to there. A world which miraculously becomes so familiar to the faraway reader that it feels like home. You know, Garcia Marquez gave us Macondo, his birthplace, a small town somewhere in the coastal era of northern Colombia. Who has ever been to Macondo, which is really called Aracataca, if I'm not mistaken? What is to see there? Yes, I haven't been there, but I have met a person who visited this place many years ago, not now that it became a tourist place because of Garcia Marquez. There were a few huts, a couple of stone houses, one single paved street and a few dust lanes, some trees, a relatively large church, and a lonely dog barking at the stranger in the street. That is all. Now, how many of us know Macondo almost better than we know our own place? We know the secrets, we know the politics, we know the family legends, we know the secret sexual and emotional life of generations. We are from there. Just like we are from the tiny small town of M or N point in a Chekhov story. I've once been to Oxford, Mississippi, where William Faulkner comes from. I walked in the streets of the town. You know, the city of Oxford, the town of Oxford, Mississippi, not Oxford, England, Oxford, Mississippi. It struck me like a so-so reproduction of a work of which I've already seen the original. What am I doing here watching a mediocre reproduction? I know the original. So this is the magic, one of the many magics of literature. And people read books, and they still read them. And if you ask me, if you pointed a gun to my head and told me, we give you one word to tell us what all your books are about. I wrote some 30 books, give or take. Tell us in one word what those books are about. I will say families. Give me 2 words, I will say unhappily families. Give me 3 words, you'll have to read my works, I'm afraid. I write about unhappy families because of the famous Tolstoy dictum, the opening sentence of Anna Karenina. All happy families resemble each other. Each unhappy family is unhappy in its own way. Well, a successful bridge, well built, well planned, well designed, there's nothing to write about except for bravo to the architect, bravo to the builder, bravo to the municipality, bravo to everyone. It's the bridge that collapsed or cracked where the story lies. So I write about unhappy families. And I write about families because I find the family the single most exciting institute in the universe, the most paradoxical, the most tragic, the most comical, the most impossible one, the most unlikely one. Most of us, I don't want to generalize, I don't know all the secrets of everyone, but most of us are not monogamous by birth. And this very strange institution, father, mother, child, another child, at least superficially, it seems to contradict human nature. And indeed, we have been hearing prophecies of doom, that the family is going to disappear, and we have heard these prophecies for the last 2,500 years at least. Jesus wanted to offer some alternative to the family. Most people did not follow. Plato offered another philosophical alternative to the institution of the family. Almost nobody followed. It is a strange institution. It's making funny noises. It's breaking. It's exuding fumes and smoke and pollution, you name it. And in many cases it breaks. Very often it breaks. And yet it seems to drag itself from one generation to the next, from one generation to the next, everywhere. In the Ayatollah's Iran and in postmodern Greenwich Village. In very, very permissive Shenkin Street in Tel Aviv and across the valley in Bnei Brak. In the jungles of Africa and in the ice of the North Pole, this institution drags itself limping from one generation to the next. How is this possible? I don't know. I'm still working on this. I'm still working on this literally every day of my life. This is it. You know, if anyone gave me the choice between two options, one, to join the first man spacecraft to the planet Mars, and option two, to spend 24 hours as a fly on the wall in the house of a family, any family. I prefer to be the fly, not the astronaut. In the first place, it's much, much safer. And in the second place, I find it much more exciting, at least for me, any family at all. It is a mystery. It is perhaps the most exciting mystery in the world, at least for me. So yes, I write about families. I write about the distance between the initial dreams and the actual realities. I write about the difference between our fantasies and what becomes of them when we try to fulfill them. I write about disappointments. I write about trying again and again. And yes, I write about the fact that in my view there is no gap between comedy and tragedy. At school, you know, they taught us, at least most of us, our teachers taught us that comedy and tragedy are two different planets. You cry in tragedies and you laugh in comedies and you don't mix. In my view, comedy and tragedy are no more than just two different windows through which we can watch the same landscape, the same backyard of our life. And that's why I write my stories and my novels in such a way that you don't shed a tear in one episode and then smile or laugh in the next episode. No. I want my readers to shed a tear and smile or laugh at the same episode. This is what I'm working on. This is what I try to do every writing day. Well, I call it a writing day. It's just a few hours of, mostly of erasing. Anyone can write. The trick is to know how to erase. Anyone can write. There are more writers in this country than citizens. And the trick is how to erase, and my work is to erase. But between erasing and erasing, I try to find this fine chord between a tragedy and a joke, human folly and the moving, childlike defenselessness of the human experience. That's what I do. And let me end where I began. Let me say something about Israel, about the world in which we live in. You know, countries in general, most countries, they are born out of history, out of geography, out of demography, out of politics. Not this country. This country was born out of dreams, many dreams, conflicting and contradicting dreams. Sometimes mutually exclusive dreams, dreams which cancel one another. However, it was born from dreams. And I'm telling you, anything at all that is born out of dreams, if it is fulfilled, it has a slight touch or a slight sense of disappointment about it. The only way to keep a dream perfect and rosy and intact and unsullied is never to try to live it out. Israel is a dream come true. Different dreams, very different dreams, but many of them came true. And therefore, it has a touch of disappointment about it. The disappointment is not in the nature of Israel, it is in the nature of dreams, any dreams. This is true of writing a novel. This is true of traveling to some exotic part of the world. This is true of planting a garden. This is true of living out a sexual fantasy. The only way to keep it perfect is never leave it out. We Israelis, and let me say, we human beings wherever we are, all the way from Universidad Nacional de San Martin to Tel Aviv University, all the way from Buenos Aires to Ramat Aviv, we all live through the daily experience of seeing our initial dreams half fulfilled, 10% fulfilled, half shattered, half disappointing, half ridiculous, tragic and funny, tragic and funny. Once again, I thank the University of San Martin. I thank Tel Aviv University. I thank my hosts, and I thank you, friends, ladies and gentlemen, for being here this evening. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Amos will now receive the degree honoris causa together with the insignia of the UNSAM, as well as a present. This present is a drawing by the Argentinian artist Carlos Nine entitled Previous Acceptance of Variety to Begin a Dialogue. I would like to invite the Dean of the School of Humanities of the UNSAM, Contador Carlos Greco, to present the diploma and the gift. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end of the ceremony. I would like to thank you very, very much for your presence here. Thank the authorities. Thank you, Amos Oz, for a stimulating lecture. And we'll see you again.